In this video, we're going to look at some of the Eastern philosophy that influences the writing of haiku. Without haiku, that imparts that mysterious little whiff of insight which is so difficult to describe and yet is so strangely satisfying. By understanding more about Eastern philosophy, we hope to get closer to the essence of haiku. Haiku flourished in Japan in the Edo period, among a newly literate middle class that arose. For the merchant and the military classes, reading and writing took on themes and practices of the arts that had formerly been restricted to only the aristocracy. In the hands of the samurai and the onion farmer, sake merchant and potter, haiku introduced a riot of possibilities. Street words, colloquialisms, Chinese compounds, pop slogans, Buddhist philosophy all went into this poetry. Until then, poetry was the bastion of the denizens of the imperial court. Now, the frail romantic women in sumptuous brocade kimonos gave way to scarecrows, radishes, and snails. As Basho said, the old verse can be about willows. He was gazing back across Japan's long tradition of court poetry. He said, haiku requires crows plucking snails in the rice paddy. Greatly due to Basho's influence, haiku's language also came to be imbued with the profound silences and great open spaces. There's something unforgettable in the best of haiku images. They linger long after the words are exhausted or forgotten. This is why haiku holds the flavor of Zen. From one essential detail, a sudden, direct view of the great void is granted to us. Basho and his contemporaries used plain common language for haiku, separating it from the classical poetry of earlier eras, which had been high class in tone, vocabulary, and subject matter. In Japan, this aesthetic is called wabi-cha, which roughly translates to rough-hewn, rustic, unpretentious, and salted with ordinariness. In the ages, Zen philosophy has influenced various aspects of Japanese culture, from the tea ceremony and flower arrangements to its martial arts and theatre. Zen focuses on simplicity, naturalness, and austerity. Zen Buddhism has significantly shaped Japanese haiku. While not all haiku poets were Zen Buddhists, several key figures were, while others were greatly influenced by it. Zen Buddhism is centered around the practice of meditation. In meditation, a person stills the hectic surface activity of the mind, the constant planning, speculating, fantasizing, hoping, dreading, recalling, self-congratulation, self-doubt, and all of that we engage in. When a measure of control over the runaway mind is established, they believe that a calmer space appears. As all the spiritual traditions affirm, this calmer space gives one the ability to live in the moment, and this brings a sense of joy and release. This helps us to live more fully and freely in the world. Zen, on the whole, is concerned with the cultivation of a profound, down-to-earth awareness of this experience that we call life. Practitioners of Zen Buddhism seek to reach a great enlightenment, which they call satori, which takes many years of disciplined effort. They also believe there are many little flashes of enlightenment called kensho, which are intense forms of those everyday noticings that surprise us or please us because they seem to reveal a truth or to connect us with a sense of awe. Haiku is a momentary condensed poetic form, and its special quality is that it is perfectly adapted to give the reader that little instance of kensho insight. Basho developed the haiku form so that each haiku became a little burst of awakening. It is this that is the essence of haiku, not its number of syllables. This is what makes haiku so vivid. This is how they are able to distill so much wisdom into 3 short lines or just a few syllables and make it beautiful and profound. With haiku, we learn to still our minds and experience the idea that the purpose of life is to live. This makes us look differently at everyday experiences and to savor the beauty and profoundness of those moments. As Alan Watts said in the book The Way of Zen, the meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. In your neighborhood, or during your commute to school or work, how much of the world around you do you see? We're often lost in thought, thinking of 100 things, but we miss what is right in front of us. The haiku poet must be able to notice these everyday moments and to be able to dig underneath the grime of their mundaneness to find beauty, truth, and even God. If I try to define haiku through the lens of Eastern philosophy, one could say that it is about expressing the beauty of a moment juxtaposed with some profound observation about the human experience. The insight of the haiku moment is fresh, it's a new minted perception of how the world is and how it feels to exist in that world. It often creates open metaphors for our human condition and helps us to resonate with that. Haiku moments offer a little bit of existential therapy shared between the writer and the reader, and a little bit of mutual compassion. They are just one of the several meditative ways, like calligraphy and minimal ink paintings from Japan, whose form gives expression to insight as well as helps to deepen it. Wabi comes from a word that referred to a style of tea ceremony. However, the spirit of it refers to something that is simple, quiet, and absent of or devoid of ornament. It involves being grateful for things as they are without being swept away by extravagance. This is based on the belief that communication is best accomplished in ways that are pure and simple. Wabi by itself means things that are fresh and simple. It denotes a simplicity and quietude, but also incorporates a certain rustic beauty. It includes both that which is made by nature and that which is made by man. Refers to a way of living that focuses on finding beauty within the imperfections of life and accepting peacefully that there is a natural cycle of growth and decay. Is a Japanese concept that means to have a reason for being. It can be described as having a sense of purpose in life as well as being motivated. It entails actions of devoting oneself to pursuits that one enjoys and is associated with feelings of accomplishment and fulfillment. Concepts that can also help you understand the spirit behind haiku. One is impermanence, the idea that the human body goes through many states and that nothing lasts forever. Then there's the idea of dependent co-origination, that all events are linked in some way and that everyone alive must go through suffering. There is also the concept of emptiness or shunyata, which says that everything originates from nothing and that also probably returns to nothing. Revolves around the teachings of the Chinese philosopher Confucius, and the main principles behind his ideology are humanity, loyalty, morality, and consideration, as well as placing a heavy emphasis on mercy, social order, and the fulfillment of responsibilities. The main part of Confucianism is known as Ren, meaning to show love, mercy, and humanity towards all living things. Confucianism also teaches us that the family is the unit, that is the center of life and should always come before an individual. In philosophy, we usually analyze what it means to be, to do, to think, to exist. However, in Japanese philosophy, they're more interested in the concept of nothingness. They see it as a very positive thing, relating it to being awakened or enlightened. They believe that there is an inescapable ephemerality to all natural phenomena, and this is systemized within Buddhist thought as the idea that the essence of all existence lies in a return to nothingness. The Kyoto school of philosophy would say that being is the way that nothingness shows itself. They say that nothing exists that isn't connected, but Connectedness as a concept doesn't exist as an object or a solid form. It shows itself through things that are connected. But the connectedness itself is not visible. You can't point to it. Therefore, what is more fundamental? Connected things or connectedness? The idea of being connected, connectedness, that is what is more fundamental. Tea. Well, tea ceremonies are very important in Japanese culture, and the way of the tea is all about balancing the concepts of conversations, traditions, and learning. The way of tea is about sharing knowledge with fellow humans and is regarded by the Japanese almost as a spiritual practice. The four principles of Japanese tea practice are harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility, aiming to awaken the senses and to unite the mind and body. Massive respect for food, and it's common to hear people say "itadakimasu" before eating a meal. This phrase means "I humbly receive," and it's a way of giving thanks to the people that made the food as well as to the plants and animals that gave up their lives for the meal. As haiku poets, what we can learn from this is to have a sense of humility and respect when it comes to experiencing and dealing with the people, the animals and plants and nature itself.